Moving on in our design section, our next topic is about border radius and roundness in general. Now, it might seem that border radius is a pretty insignificant detail. However, actually, it is pretty important because the amount of border radius that we give to our elements has a big effect on the seriousness or playfulness of any design. So, as I already hinted at here at the very beginning, we can use border radius to basically increase the playfulness and fun of the design by making it at the same time less serious. So here is what I just said. So the less border radius we have, the more serious or elegant a design can be perceived. On the other hand, if we add a lot of border radius to our elements, then that design will automatically look more playful and more fun. And so I think that you can agree with the fact that this design on the right side looks a lot more playful and a lot less serious than the one on the left side. Now, of course, there are also other factors that play into that perception, like the typography and the colors that are used on the left side. But nonetheless, border radius is still a very important ingredient that we can use to make any design look less serious, or on the other hand, if we simply don't use it, we can make a design look more serious or more elegant. Now, in order to actually choose the amount of border radius, a good indicator of that is the typeface. So the typeface that you choose will already have a certain roundness. And so you can kind of make the border radius match that roundness. For example, in this design right here, the typeface is pretty round. And so we have those rounded corners on the image. We have the button also completely round, actually. And then we even have those icons wrapped inside of circles. And by doing that, the designer here really added a lot of roundness to the overall design, not just in the typeface, but also in these other design elements. And therefore, that takes away a lot of the elegance and makes this all a little bit more playful and more inviting at the end of the day as well. Now, on the other hand, we have this very boxy typeface, which is actually also Inter, so the one that we used in our current very small project. And so in this example, the designer added just a tiny bit of border radius to these buttons in order to still add a little bit of playfulness to the design. Now, next up, let's talk about where we can actually use border radius. And the first elements that use border radius the most, I would say, are buttons. And on buttons, we have the option of adding only a small amount of border radius, just enough to kind of take away the hard edges there. Or, on the other hand, we can make the buttons completely round, like these first three here. Or we can even use some creativity and make only some of the corners round and leaving the other ones with their sharp edge. Now, another great candidate are images. So it's pretty common to use border radius on images like we see here. And if we take that to the extreme, we can make them also completely round like we have it here in the center. Then around icons is also pretty common. And here again, we have those two options of only making them slightly round, so taking off the edge there, basically. And then, like I also showed you before, we can make the icons completely enclosed inside of a circle. Next, border radius is also used on some sections that we want to stand out, so a little bit like a shadow as well. And finally, also some other kind of random elements can always use some border radius. So here are just a couple of more elements that I found when researching the course that use some border radius in some form or another. And so I hope that these examples can help you to find some inspiration, along of course with all the other ones that I showed you in this lecture. And that's actually already enough for this lecture. So in the next one, we will now learn how to actually apply border radius using CSS.